This is a Fox News alert. Bombshell Bill Cosby developments. The comedian arrested and charged with aggravated indecent assault, a felony for allegedly drugging and then sexually violating a woman more than a decade ago. In 2004, prosecutors say Cosby had former Temple University employee Andrea Constand over to his home near Philadelphia. They say he gave her pills and wine and then touched her while she was, quote, paralyzed and unable to respond to his advances. More than 50 women have accused TV's former #1 dad of sex crimes. This past summer, unsealed court documents revealed Bill Cosby admitted he gave quaaludes to women he wanted to have sex with. Cosby has acknowledged sexual contact with this woman, but he claims it was consensual. The Montgomery County Assistant District Attorney explains why he reopened the case.
The prosecutor's job is to follow the evidence wherever it takes us. And sometimes that means whenever it comes to light. When U.S. Federal Judge Edward Rebrano unsealed legal filings that contained references to the civil deposition, and we learned about allegations from other victims under similar circumstances, reopening this case was not a question. Rather, reopening this case was our duty. Today, after examination of all the evidence, we are able to seek justice on behalf of the victim.
Cosby is free before trial after posting a $100,000 bond. KG, I think the operative term here is reopening. Why does it need to be reopened? What did they do wrong?
Well, because obviously at some time they took, a look, a pass through on the evidence in the case, and so new developments have occurred. And I'll tell you what that is, because there's 40 women that have alleged that they have had some kind of interaction with him where they were sexually assaulted or that it wasn't consensual because they were drugged at the time. What the prosecutor is going to try to do to this case, they're going to bring forward a motion in front of the judge to have the other women testify. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, that seems like stacking the deck, very prejudicial if you're going to be judging a case on its specific merits. But there's a way under the evidence code to bring it in to talk about prior bad acts or mode of operation, kind of your MO of how you do things. And if it's a similar pattern, then you can say it's more probative than prejudicial, and it could be allowed in. So assuming there was even a conviction.
There's no double jeopardy involved, or
well, no,
he at one point thought he wasn't going to be
He wasn't ever tried for it. So there is no double jeopardy issue. This case would go forward. And look, it's very serious charges. We're looking at 10 years in state prison. He's 78 years of age, but he's got the money and the resources to fight this. And it's really going to be a matter of how the motions go down in front of the judge, what evidence he allows in, what testimony, and then it's going to be a he said, she said in terms of a credibility call with jurors.
Julie, a lot of she says, though, more than one, as KG points out, at least 40.
I mean, a lot of she says. In this particular case, though, Kimberly, it's interesting to me, she admitted that she voluntarily took the quaaludes, right? Does that somehow make her less of a credible witness? I don't know. I mean, I assume if I'm a defense attorney, I'm going to say, look, she volunteered to take these drugs. She maybe was not in the right state of mind. She thinks that she didn't give consent because she was so drugged up. Maybe she did give consent. I mean, this to me seems like a very difficult case to bring up, which is a shame because I don't want to judge anybody for being guilty before the court finds them guilty. Right. But nevertheless, the evidence seems to be very strong against him that he did this repeatedly to many women.
Right. How many of those prior instances are they going to let in, if any? Because just this case on its merits never proceeded forward before until we had all these other people come forward. And even in your own mind, you're thinking, well, 40 other women have said they've had some kind of similar experience. That doesn't sound good. It's not one or two. It's not a one-off between Bill Cosby and this woman who's making the complaint against him. But, that's what courts are for, and the justice system, and beyond a reasonable doubt, he'll have his day in trial, and so will the victim.
But that's my question. I'm sorry, but that's just my question about this. Assume that the motion is granted to the defense and nobody else is allowed to testify about prior bad acts or subsequent bad acts. On its merits, just on this particular case, the prosecution's going to have a tough time,
right?
It's
a very tough case. If it was a good case, they would have brought it forward before. It's brought forward now because of all the other people coming forward. They say, okay, well, listen, we can put this forward.
Can I get, Meghan, can you give us a visceral reaction when you see the perp walk, when you see Bill Cosby walking into court to be arraigned?
I mean, You're a lawyer, so you're going to take this from a legal angle. I'm emotional, so I think he's a monster, and I'm glad he's finally getting. So I'm sorry, 40 women. I read all the stories. I read the New York Magazine cover story. Beverly Johnson wrote a really heartbreaking article about her experience with him. What I want to ask you, Kimberly, is he admitted to obtaining drugs to drug women for sexual purposes in a deposition that came out 10 years ago. Does that make a difference?
Yes, because a statement against interest like that can come in court against him, even if he chooses not to take the stand, because if you make a statement like that that's against your interest, it's considered to be not hearsay because it is more probative and looks like it's, yes, for the truth of the matter asserted, it may in fact be put forward in front of a jury. So that's, or they also call them statements against penal interest. Like if you were to make a statement like that, you could be facing criminal time, behind bars, etc. So why would you say it unless
I think we have Kimberly on set this blog today. Jesse, your thoughts on TV's dad of all time going down hard.
Mr. Huxtable. I mean, we grew up with this guy. This was America's dad. And there's a saying, the brighter the star, the darker the demons. And if this is true, I mean, this guy's got some serious demons. And you can see what's already happening when he exited his SUV. He's got the cane. He's holding on to the arm. So it looks like they're trying to say, this guy's 78 years old, but he's got the money to string it out. But there are a lot of consistencies in all of these allegations, and they're very disturbing. So what he does is he grooms these women. He allegedly brings them in. I'm going to coach you. I'm going to get you auditions, fly you out to Vegas, stay in a luxury hotel room. Then it's, have some wine and some, wine you and dine you. Here's some Quaaludes. Next thing you know, they're unconscious and he's violating them. That's a disturbing kind of power trip he's got going. And then he has these handlers, and he has fixers, and he has pimps and lawyers that cut check.
That's called a sexual predator.
Right, and pays people off. So this was a kind of open secret in Hollywood, from what I understand. This was kind of out in the public, and no one ever blew the whistle. So, people should stand up, and, hopefully these prosecutors open up other cases.
Complicit in sex crimes committed against women.
But some of these women did blow the whistle, and some of these women were pushed back. A lot of them were snubbed at the time. Go ahead.
To your point, though, talking about handlers and he's walking in with a cane, I saw this and I thought, he's wearing his Cliff Huxtable sweater. Did everybody notice the sweater he was wearing, that ugly sweater? That's the Bill Cosby that we know as America's dad. It's the Cliff Huxtable sweater. His handlers clearly had something they wanted to put out there, an image of, this guy. This is Cliff Huxtable. This is America's dad. And this is, is this trying to sway the jury?
Because it's about image shaping. Well, sure, because none of this happens in a vacuum, but they'll be told and admonished by the judge to not take into any account of anything they might have heard on television shows like this or other, because this has been covered, all over the world. This is such a big story. So he'll ask them, has anybody heard about this case, etc. And then there you go.
You're seeing
There's
the
a sweater. That is
right
Dr. Huxtable's sweater. That's the sweater he used to wear on the show. One of the sweaters he used to wear on the show. It's brilliant.
Supposed to evoke a nice warm memory about him, like Jell-O commercials.
What I think is fascinating about this story is, like you said, there were rumors all over Hollywood for such a long time. I assume people covering it up allegedly, but it took a comedian talking about this in an act to reignite this, and a man in his act making fun of him to reignite all of these allegations everywhere.
Let's listen to Bill Cosby himself when he addressed the sexual assault allegations on Nightline back in May.
It's interesting. This is a situation that's unprecedented. My family, my friends, I have been in this business 52 years, and I've never seen anything like this. And reality is the situation. And I can't speak.
Bring it around this way, Jesse, again. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a heck of a lot of smoke.
You know what this reminds me of? O.J. Simpson. You have two rock star black American personalities that really had a lot of crossover appeal, a lot of commercial appeal. And there had been stuff that's been going on. Remember O.J.'d be punching his wife for a long time. No one really said anything. He had all this stuff going on with Cosby for all these decades. He had fame and fortune, got away with a lot, but then, the law comes down on you eventually. And, is black America going to rally to this guy, Cosby, like they rallied to O.J.? I don't think so. I really think they're different people. Times have changed. And it's sad for Cosby, but it's even sadder for all the women he allegedly abused, if that's true.
Yeah. Did that soften it for you at all, hearing him in his own words?
No, in fact, I was thinking whoever's doing his PR needs to be fired. If you're accused of something like this and you're claiming you're innocent, I didn't do it. I never did it. It's horrific. America thinks I'm a monster. I've been in this business 52 years, and he just looked like he was spouting out words, and it made him look more guilty to me.
Yeah, the whole thing to me, what's interesting to me is he's a huge celebrity, at one point probably the biggest celebrity on American television.
And an iconic figure.
An iconic figure. What is psychotic about his behavior is he could have had, if he wanted to cheat on his wife, he could have had supermodels lining up to have consensual sex with him. The fact that he actually went there and drugged these women, that says to me something more than just a bad act. That to me is a crazy sexual predator.
Yeah. Well, it's something
pathological.
Is this a possible defense?
Like affluenza?
To say.
Yeah.
Don't try it. That's not going to go over well. I mean, that's not any legally justifiable defense, but as we've seen in cases like affluenza, they can come up with something. But the point is, how's it going to help him in this case? This is a guy who really marketed himself as wholesome, you know, all-American, someone that you'd want to take into your family, have you read books, you know, to your kids at night. I mean, he was just amazing the way he was with children. So this is somebody who had a high credibility, integrity, trust factor, and kind of Q factor out there in the public, and it's just destroyed with these stories, and again, just the voluminous amount of people coming forward, which takes a lot of courage to do. And just for the record, these are the toughest cases to prosecute. I know, because I've prosecuted these, and they're real tough on the victims. They're tough to get the juries to say, because it's he said, she said. It really comes down to a credibility call.
And maybe a body of evidence.
Right.
Quite a few.